I apologize in advance here for how congested I sound. I am very sick. I've been very sick for the last several days. I'm trying to recover. But with WoW 3.1 about to release, I wanted to finish 3.0 Part 2. And then immediately preceding that, do a dedicated video with my thoughts while they were still very fresh. Now, not everything from 3.0 Part 1 is fresh in my mind, but with 3.2 being, or 3.0 Part 2 being so, I think, enjoyable to me, I have to do a video talking about it. What I want to do is, for the games that I play regularly, like WoW, and like Arknights Enfield more recently, for every major patch, I want to do like an official review of them. And by official review, I mean I sit here and just talk to my webcam and all of you without writing anything up and just winging the entire thing. So, at the very least, it's going to be better than what IGN and PC Gamer do, because they're just given, you know, max level dev accounts where they play the game for 10 minutes, say, oh, this is like Genshin Impact, or this sucks, and then that is their official review. Now, with me, I play through every patch, I read through all the story, and I play through all the content that I possibly can. You know, I don't necessarily do the Tower of Adversity because it's boring to me, and I don't 100% all the regions, but I play as much of them as I want to, because I'm a casual gamer, and at the end of the day, that's okay. Not everyone has to be hardcore and 100% every single thing in every single game. Now, I want to point out immediately, I appreciate the fact that WoW for 3.0 actually did something very different. They took a big risk here because they took an entirely different approach. So in 1.0, you had this like really dark setting, and then in 2.0, there was still very much so that dark setting to it. And then in 3.0, well, it seems less dark, and the world is much more vibrant, and you get a character like Lene, who is, you know, like on the surface level, much less dark. Ultimately, you find out and spoiler alert for anyone that is going to continue watching, you probably shouldn't be watching a review of an update if you don't want spoilers, but Lene herself is a fucking criminal. She stole someone's identity and then pretended to be something she wasn't, and she's like a killer. And so it definitely is dark. I think it started off lighter, gave this like false perception of what the game was or the patch was going to be and the direction the patch is going to go. But it started off light, it started off happy, it started off quirky. Now she like comes out and hits you with the motorcycle. It's like, ugh! And I think that's really cool. I think them taking a lighter approach, at least initially, has been great. I appreciate the risk they're taking, because we don't need WoW 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 all being the same thing. We want diversity, and we want them to actually take risks. We want them to have different narrative approaches and to tackle the story from multiple different perspectives. That way, things are fresh and things don't get repetitive or tedious or arduous. There's always going to be something new and something potentially innovative and something exciting to expect. And 3.0 has definitely been that. Yeah, it really has. I love the designs. I love Lene's design. She's one of the prettiest characters in the game. I love Mornier's design. She's absolutely stunning. I love the upcoming Amiya character. She looks incredible. Luke looks incredible. Like, there's so many absolutely insane looking characters in 3.0. I think even more impressive looking characters in the 3.x season or series of patches that are going to come out that were present in the 2.x series of patches, which is crazy because 2.x had some incredible standout characters too, like Cardathian Fleur-de-Lis, like, you know, like Augusta. And the voice acting has also been quite exceptional. There are several guys here that have insanely outstanding voices. I think the male voice actors, here's what I think. I think that the female voice actors are incredibly talented, but they have a lot of them. They have so few male characters in the game that they have a large selection of different male voice actors to choose from. So they're just like reaching out to the best ones. So for the females, there's like, you know, you choose you, just bring them all in. For the males, they're like, okay, we have like 4 guys coming this patch or that are going to be present this patch. We want to hear all of your auditions. So they audition, and then they're like, you 4 are the best sounding out of the several dozen. Whereas as for the female, if there were several dozen that auditioned, they're like, let's just take all of you. So the male voice acting is, I think, exceptional. And so are the females, but I'm sure you all agree. Some of the male characters here are just like, they make the male. And I think the male voice acting in actually even like 1.0 was probably above the average. The story itself, I think, has been really good. I would say it's definitely better than all the 1.x patches. Maybe with, I think the only 1.x patch that was really, really outstanding to me was the Mount Firmament ones in 1.1. I don't think 3.0 was the best patch, the best major patch to date. I actually think the Cardathea one, where you pierce her up while you're in the sky into heavens, essentially she comes crashing down. I forget if that was 2.2, 2.3. It was like one of those two was probably the best patch. It was either that one or the Chisa one in Hanami, because that was actually really cool as well. But those are, I think, my two like favorite patches of the entire Wuwa's life cycle so far. This is definitely top 5. I thought this was exceptional. I love the perspective with which they tackled it. I love the fact that you teamed up with Lene in part 1 to fight the worm, and I love that Mornier was like so impactful in part 2, and she's just devastatingly powerful, and it was all very cool. I love the inclusion of a certain character at the end of part 2 walking away smiling at you right at the very end. Fraxidus was introduced, or at the very least mentioned, right at the end. I think there have been some interesting twists and turns. Yo, I don't mean to interrupt the video, but I need to take a moment here to thank all my incredible patrons over on Patreon whose support continues to allow for me to do regular videos like this every single day on this channel. Thank y'all so much, including our YouTube channel members. You guys mean the world to me. So do you guys as viewers as well. Now, without further ado, let's continue. I know some people have, and I have as well. Like I when I went into this, I was expecting to see a lot more of Chisa, and we haven't. We haven't really seen Chisa at all. Like everything with her was pretty much summed up in like a couple minutes of off-screen, or at the very least non-main story content. And I would have loved to have seen Chisa and have her have been a major part of 3.0 or future 3.x patches, and she very well might be. I mean, I guess we'll need to wait and see. But I thought she was essentially going to be an anchor for our adventure into Lahai Roi. But I think I like the fact that Lene played a part in part 1 and also played a part in part 2. And Mornier also played a part in part 1 and a part in part 2. I'm hoping moving into the future, they also have like at least 1 or 2 characters moving between patches and carrying over between patches. But at the same time, I've come to realize something about WoW that I think a lot of other content creators and a lot of other players have yet to realize. So there are gacha games out there. Let's take Arknights Enfield, for example. Let's take Genshin Impact, for example, that have a core cast of characters, like a large cast of characters, and they build a story around that large cast of characters. But in so doing, they don't provide a lot of backstory or context for what's going on with each character, because there are so many that are always taking part in the story, and they don't really ever have like a moment to truly stand out and shine. And people criticize Wuthering Waves because they don't have that core cast of characters. I very much so for 1.0 and 2.0 felt the same way. I thought the game would be enhanced by having a large number of characters. Like, let's say as an example, I would have loved for Cardathea and Shorekeeper and Chisa to come over to Lahai Roi, and then have Lene and Mornier as well. But if you think about it, at the end of the day, if you introduce, you know, several new characters and then also bring in several old characters, you have multiple things that are going to happen. One, the story is going to be significantly stretched out because you need to have all these characters being a part of the story. Then you have the fact that if you don't want to have the story stretched out to such an extreme, such a large magnitude, you're going to have to reduce the story that the new characters have. So you could have a 10-hour story that it could have been significantly more concise as a 2-hour story, be a 10-hour story because you have all those characters and endless yap sessions that go on. Or you could just kind of condense it all and have that 1 or 2 characters introduced and then have the story revolve around them. Now, I think that you could still do that and have, like, you know, Lene appeared in part 2, which I think was great for a few minutes. Then you had Mornier appear in part 1 for a few minutes, which was great. But I feel like You could very much so still like integrate other characters into the beginnings maybe, or the middles of, or the ends of a story for a few minutes without it necessarily detrimentally affecting the overall, you know, like the integrity of the patch itself. But for the most part, I've come to the conclusion that Wuwa just approaches the storytelling from a different perspective of other games, and they would rather have a tight, concise story told for each patch rather than having it bloated and artificially inflated for the sake of introducing other characters. And that's okay. I've come to the realization that that's okay to have. That not every game needs to have that large core cast of characters. That as long as that core cast of characters appears periodically, like they did at the end of 2.8, it'll be okay. And that is fine. After seeing that in 2.8, everyone come together, know each other, and, you know, like, incorporate into this large group. It'll be cool and it'll be fine. I just think periodically have different characters pop in for a few minutes. So you're like, oh hey, you know, there's Luke. We got injured in like 3.3, so we were taken back, and Luke is there making sure we're okay. You know, like that would be cool. It doesn't need to be a big appearance, just something minor like that. And we did in 3.0. We saw Luke again at the end, part 2, which was great. We saw Lene, which was great. So I think they have taken a more concise approach to storytelling, and I think that was really good. And honestly, like the entire new approach to like the story, the school arc for the storytelling is really cool. And I think if it just continued to be 2.0 all over again, it would probably get boring, tedious, arduous, and repetitive. So I do appreciate the change in theme, and I appreciate the risks they're taking. I also think that there have been a lot of references and instances of other anime, but also anime themes, like with how they present the story and the things that happen in it. Very anime. I think that is more pronounced right now in the 3.x series. There have been like more anime references in 3.0 than the entirety of 1.0 and 2.0 combined, which is crazy. What I also like is that the part 1 and part 2 of 3.0 have also mostly taken place in the overworld. Like a lot of us taken place in the overworld, which provides a purpose to the world, right? There is an actual reason that the world exists. So in previous patches, you're like, okay, time to go into that instance and the entire thing. And they're beautifully and intricately designed, by the way. But you go in there and you're like, I wish I could come back here, but you can't ever. But in 3.0 so far, and I'm sure this will change moving in the future, but in 3.0 so far, you've been out exploring the world. Like they have you move between points out in the open world, and a lot of it takes place. Even your big like motorbike riding, they all take place in the open world too, like regions and areas that you see day to day while just being out and doing stuff. And that has been really, really cool. The soundtrack for 3.0 has been an absolute banger. But I mean, after 2.0, when have they not killed it with their soundtracks, right? I don't think 3.0 necessarily has been perfect. Like, there have been parts of it that have been slow or drawn out. I think the lack of characters like Chisa being at least some core part of your journey into 3.0 is a little bit disappointing, but, you know, not like game breaking or really reason enough to lash out and criticize the game over. I do think, though, for the most part, the game definitely met my expectations. I think the character kits that I've seen and that I've been able to utilize have been very cool. They're very different to the 2.0 and the 1.0 characters. I also love the new character designs. I think they're very different. I also think they're a large contrast to what we had in 1.0 and 2.0, which were very regionally specific. So we had like the Roman outfits or Greek outfits for characters like Yuno and Augusta and Lupa and even Cardathea, and you know, with Carlotta and Cantorella and Brant and Rochia, all of them. And then with the Huanglong characters like Chisha, like Baija, we had very regionally specific outfits. And in 3.0, we're seeing characters that look like Lene, that look like Mornier, that look like Luke. I mean, the diversity here that 3.0 has presented us is fantastic. I don't really have any criticisms or complaints other than the fact that Chisa was not included when they kind of set her up to be a major part of 3.0. I know that for the most part, 3.0 has been kind of a slower burn, but I think they're building up. And I actually, a friend of mine, Wobsy, on stream pointed this out, that they have a slower burn, but they're building up to a bigger payoff. And I totally agree. I think that we've seen in 3.0 what they're planning, or at the very least, the foundation of what they're planning. And it's pretty damn good. It is probably going to be better than a lot of us are anticipating. Actually, I completely forgot to mention this when I was recording this initially, but the motorcycle. Like, how did I miss the motorcycle as a feature, as a method of transportation around the world? That was actually sick. Genuinely, it was so much fun. It is so much fun to use. Sure, it's not the flight system that's present in 2.0 and Renacida, but it provides, much like I mentioned, something different, something unique, something innovative that isn't the flight. It is not as fast, but it allows for you to experience the world in an entirely different way. I love being able to sit with your party members. I love the music that you can play. I love that you can essentially autopilot it as well. It's a really, really cool new feature. And I'm curious to see how they're going to implement this, not only in further regions, but also what they're going to do and how they're going to implement something into 4.0. We're going to get like a jetpack or something. That'd kind of be sick. I didn't think they were going to be able to live up to 2.0. I went into this like, there's no way 3.0 is going to be as good as 2.0. I would have given 2.0 probably an 8.5 out of 10. With 2.3, I think, or 4, or maybe it was even 2. We fought Cardathea up in the sky and she came crashing down. We had that epic fight scene with her. I would have given that a 9 out of 10, maybe even a 9.5 out of 10. That was the best patch in the entire game up until this point. Even up until this point right now, I would probably give 3.0 an 8.5 as well. Maybe even a 9. I would say it is comparable to 2.0. Was it as grand a scale, like as grandiose a scale, as large a scale? I don't think so. But at the same time, I think that's because they're just trying to establish certain characters right now, trying to build certain plot points right now, and also because they want to just take a bit of a different approach to it. And again, I'm down with that. I like that they're doing that, because if you don't take risks, you'll never increase your reward. At the end of the day, I thoroughly enjoyed patch 3.0. I'm really looking forward to patch 3.1 and future patches as well. I don't really get much of the criticism or much of the hate that players have with 3.0. I thought it was a banger patch.
I know you think that you just hit the end of the video, and technically, yeah, you have. And I know your first reaction is to close out of it at this juncture, but don't. No, instead, I urge you to take a moment here and click one of the videos on screen that are coming up in just a moment, so you remain up to date with everything going on in the gacha genre. Trust me, you're not going to regret doing so. Stay flaccid.